In Acts chapter 20, the Apostle Paul is speaking to the elders at Ephesus and reminding them of his preaching and teaching while he was working with them. He had come there and established the church, and for 3 years he continued to teach them. He was continually making known to them duties and responsibilities and warning them of the consequences of sin and unfaithfulness. He had not shunned to declare all the counsel of God, and had kept back nothing that was profitable to them. In short, he was a courageous and faithful servant of the Lord. In the Old Testament, Ezekiel, the priest of God, was told by the Lord, "Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore hear the word at my mouth, and give them warning from me. When I say unto the wicked, Thou shalt surely die, and thou givest him not warning, nor speakest to warn the wicked from his wicked way, to save his life, the same wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at thine hand. Yet if thou warn the wicked, and he turn not from his wickedness, nor from his wicked way, he shall die in his iniquity, but thou hast delivered thy soul. Again, when a righteous man doth turn from his righteousness and commit iniquity, and I lay a stumbling block before him, he shall die, because thou hast not given him warning. When he shall die in his sin, and his righteousness which he hath done shall not be remembered, but his blood will I require at thine hand. Nevertheless, if thou warn the righteous man that the righteous sin not, and he doth not sin, he shall surely live because he is warned. Also, thou hast delivered thy soul." Ezekiel 3, verses 17 through 21. Friends, Ezekiel could have excused himself by saying the people would not listen, but the Lord precluded that in the previous chapter. He said, "And if thou shalt speak my words unto them, whether they will hear or whether they will forbear, for they are most rebellious." Ezekiel 2 and verse 7. But a warning would serve two purposes. First, it would make the person warned aware of the sin and the consequence of it. And secondly, it would make Ezekiel free from the blood of the individual warned. It was primarily for the benefit of the person who was warned, but it also benefited the one doing the warning by keeping him free from guilt. In the New Testament, it was the Apostle Paul who wrote to the Thessalonians, "But as we were allowed of God to be put in the trust with the gospel, even so we speak, not as pleasing men, but God which trieth our hearts." 1 Thessalonians 2 and verse 4. He writes to the Galatians, "For do I now persuade men, or God, or do I seek to please men? For I yet pleased men, I should not be the servant of Christ." Galatians 1 and verse 10. When the apostle addressed the elders at Ephesus, he could boldly assert, "I am pure of the blood of all men, for I have not shunned to declare unto you all the counsel of God." Acts 20 verses 26 and 27. He says, "I ceased not to warn every one night and day with tears." To Timothy, a preacher of the gospel, Paul wrote, "If thou put the brethren in remembrance of these things, thou shalt be a good minister of Jesus Christ, nourished up in the words of faith and of good doctrine, whereunto thou hast attained." 1 Timothy 4 and verse 11. When Jesus was on earth, he preached, "Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled." Matthew 5 and verse 6. But all men do not take kindly to this kind of instruction. Jesus was crucified for his teachings. John the Baptist was beheaded because he spoke the truth. And Stephen, a faithful disciple of Christ, was stoned to death for preaching the truth. And when Paul writes to the Galatians, he asks, "Am I become your enemy because I tell you the truth?" Galatians 4 and verse 16. Friends, only truth makes friends of those who want to know and do that which is right. It's dangerous for one not to love the truth. Because of a wrong attitude, some changed the truth of God into a lie in Romans 1 and verse 25. And Paul said of others, "And with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they received not the love of the truth, that they should be saved. And for this cause God sent them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, that they all might be condemned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness." 1 Thessalonians 2 verses 10 through 12. Friends, remember, Paul told the elders of Ephesus, "I ceased not to warn every one night and day with tears." And if we love the souls of men and women and want to see them saved, neither will we cease to warn with the truth and with teaching people what the Word of God instructs us to do in this life. Friends, please consider these things and have a blessed day.